next portfolio, huh? So the next portfolio is Angelos. Let me make sure I am on the right portfolio before I open this bad boy up. So we've actually critiqued some of this work before. Some cool stuff in here. So powered by Artstation. What's funny is when I see that, I click it and then I end up in the wrong area. What I normally do is scroll all the way down here. If I click the Artstation down here, oh, it's not doing it. Why? All right. This is me being stubborn. All right. Dude, Quixel's videos coming out right now are pretty good. Pretty nice. Wait for the other ones, man. There's some good ones coming. That's right. You heard me. So this is pretty cool. Mechanical eye. So this is 5 months ago. Wow, so wait a minute. Let me see here. 5 months ago. 2 years. Okay, so some stuff's a little bit out of order. 2 months. 20 days ago. This is 5 months ago. So it's really interesting because like the quality here, this one's pretty good for like 2 years ago. I think what's going on here that's kind of making this one difficult is it's hard to read the composition. This one's a little stronger, but see you're clipping, you're doing a tangent break here, where like the asset is kind of clipping into the frame. This one's really cool, but then you start to see some weird like albedo values, where like the saturation and the greens here might be a little strong. So it's kind of going outside of the realistic values. Beddoes, come on, man. Tangents, dude, they're everywhere. Always pay attention to tangents. You got to make sure those aren't happening. But let's see here. So there's a video. Where's it at? This one. Get that. Give it up, Rez. So you've heard me talk about camera transitions before. The first shot can be still, or it can be still and then start to move. But once the camera starts moving, you want to make sure that it continues that rate of movement because you've kind of set the pace for the video, right? And so see how much this camera's moving? You don't want it to stop, and I see it stopping right here. If it stops like this, it has to be the last shot. Oh, you've got some LOD issues going on with the trees. Man, foliage. Foliage is painful in open world. It's so difficult to work with. But you see how like the camera stops, slows down, and then you've got the next one start still and then moves forward. You want to make sure that those all kind of blend together. If the shot is moving to the right, you want to make sure that the next shot is also going to the right, and you just fade between the two. You're going to get a much nicer kind of overall experience. People won't get as confused when they see the shot transition happen and whatnot. That was actually a pretty long video. This shot's pretty strong. See, this one is really hard to read, I think, just because of the way that the elements are kind of all in a similar value. I'm sorry, I'm going to skip through this a bit. This one's also quite strong as long as you can get the rest of the structure into the shot, which I'm not sure if it's possible. Wait, is that bell moving? Wait, what? It is moving. Ha! That's cool. This is a pretty nice shot. Do not ring the bell. See, this one's interesting because like you've got the fire going on, which is pretty cool. The lighting, though, it's like you kind of want the lighting to be like a colder, maybe the sun is just set. And so like the fire is doing a lot of the composition and framing. Let's see what's going on here. You see how the camera moves forward and then kind of stops and then goes up? You want that transition to be smooth. So if you were to do this, it's going up like that. You want to have it blend together, right? So you don't really feel the what do you call it? You don't want like binary camera movement or like really rigid animatronic camera movement. You want to try and smooth that all out. Let's see what else is going on in here. Man, this thing's pretty cool. If I press Control while I have my mouse over this, I can scroll through this. Sneaky. Assassin, looks like you gave me some powers. This gun's sick. Oh wow, some ZBrush action. Yeah, this is pretty cool. See, and then I'm telling you, man, wireframes are dangerous. Wireframes are just there for you to have an opinion on. And if you want someone to just be like, oh man, that looks sick, you're set, right? Like, oh, it looks awesome. And then I see the wireframe and I'm like, is the top better be a different size there, right? Then it just goes around. So you're like, there's a ton of extra geometry that you just don't need to be paying for in this. This is sick though. I think the only downside of this mesh here is the density of the sculpted detail. You can tell that this stuff here is smaller and projected versus this stuff here, right? Like you need those to both be kind of in a similar sharpness or fidelity. When it comes to wireframes for recruitment, I mean, you're already, I don't know. My personal take on it is like, show me a few things I've got wireframe or one shot with wireframe for an environment, but the rest I've just, yeah, some people care. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, like when I see like this wireframe though, all I do is wonder why it's wasteful, right? So when you're showing your portfolio off, it's really, you should have wireframes but not excessive amounts of wireframe. Right, but that's true. Yeah, if it's clever and crazy low poly and you don't see how low poly it is, then it's worth doing. And that's kind of, it's hard to tell. Like the unwrap, I'm not too interested in myself. If I see this, then I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. Flashbang. Oh, sorry. Oh wait, I think this one actually works. It's Sketchfab that doesn't work for some reason. To wire or to not wire. Man, that is high detail. So I mean, I don't think you need to add wire. If you're gonna add a viewport like this, they'll search the wire out if they want to, right? Yeah, see, these could all be merged together. Those could all be merged together after this point here. You could turn it into 2 and then into 1. And then I'm like, wait. I guess this is for like controlling the normal. That's interesting. I don't know. Wireframes, man. They're tricky. Anyways, let's keep going here. The thing that I was really intrigued by was this guy. So when you look at this one from the front, you'll notice that like the sides aren't really showing all that much. And I think if you're extruding that stuff out, if you can bring it inward a little bit, it's going to be much more impactful. Like, let me... so if I inset this, right, if this was your, say this was your detail, if you inset it and then bring it out like that, when you look at it from this view, having this information here is much more interesting. Let me see if I can... So you can see how like having that information on the side, instead of it just kind of ending forward, is going to be pretty beneficial. Like imagine seeing like just the slight side of that. It's just more like bam. The overall colors on this are pretty cool. I think a little bit of directional information could be nice, like maybe some, because there's some aging that's going on around it, but it's pretty uniform and non-directional. So when I say directional, I mean like maybe some drips and stuff that's here, and then maybe some things that either collect on the top that didn't fall off because, you know, it's just resting on the ground. But the overall look and the breakup of the silhouette here is pretty interesting. This is the stuff I was talking about with the other work. It's like making sure that it's not just a box, right? Making sure that it's got some shape to it, and the silhouette is more interesting than just... oh yeah, see, that's cool. Oh, you've got some... Okay, so you've got a little bit going on here. That wireframe is really interesting. Did you... Try count 10,000. Sculpting ZBrush, textured and substance painter. I think you decimated this. At least the top. Interesting. If not, you spent a lot of time doing your low poly. This is pretty intense, having 2 UV sets. I mean, it looks like you're doing it at least in the normal. Yeah, this feels good overall though. I like it. I wish there was something that would help me understand that this was a top. Like if there was a little bit of either more gunk here or some kind of wear that lets me know that it's either been opened a couple times or there's, you know, there's some extra information that lets me know that it can be opened. Yeah, like it's been pried open could be pretty interesting. I'm curious how this locks, if the lock is here. Because it doesn't necessarily look locked. Overall though, super cool. So, let's see what you had asked. What skills am I missing as a 3D environment artist? So I think I would like to see you make another environment. I mean, the last environment you did was 5 months ago. And I think what you're missing here is... oh, that's interesting. I think what you're missing here is more of like... sorry, I'm just scrolling through all of this. That one's pretty interesting. Relatable composition, I guess. So it's like either relatable environments or composition and some type of, man, I think relatable environments is probably a bigger thing than this. And then I think your material work also. Like, these look really interesting. I kind of want to see them without the wire on them. Like, that's kind of cool. This is interesting. It's the texture work. Like, if you go up here, like, it's very, it's hard to relate with. And compositionally, I'm not seeing what I want to see, I guess. Or, like, I'm trying to understand a composition, and I guess it's this moon or this planet. So everything's pointing towards that, which I guess is cool. I think if these were more like extreme pointing directly at it, then it would be a little bit more unified. But I guess it's just hard to relate to. Yeah, this feels like it's more of an asset showing. That's like, obviously these are just showing the assets themselves. But like material work and some stronger composition and maybe a little bit more of a relatable scene. Because I don't know if, like, when you say 3D environment artist, I'm trying to figure out what type of, like, do you want to be like a stylized environment artist? Or do you want to be like I see, this is cool. See, and I'm seeing this and I'm like wondering why everything is so straight. Like, you could have the building off to the side kind of rotated, right? Like if you, oh, sorry, hang on here. If you had, so say this was your main building and then you had the other one here, but it was more rotated like this, maybe forward and even further down on a platform. Because then you can have your cables coming across like this. And then have the rest of your structure here, and then you've got your tower up here. Yeah, it's just compositionally it's very flat. And it might just be the way you're framing the shot, because like up here, this is quite detailed. Like, this is pretty cool. This looks like trim sheet work. I'm using Blender to draw. See, this is, you see that? I don't think I can grab those. Yeah, it's annotation tools. You can see I can do that and whatnot. Delete those. Yeah. See, in this shot, this could be interesting. I don't know that it's the steps down, so the angle is kind of difficult, but then the ground is very empty. So I think paying attention to composition and trying to build on like an interesting layout to the scene. Like, cause this building in general is pretty cool. You just need maybe like some benches and stuff, or some props that are on the ground to kind of help ground it a little bit more, and then rotating it so that you're not looking at it just straight on. Like, this angle is really interesting. This is really interesting. If it was a little further back. See, these 3/4 views are really nice. Assassin, that's cool. I didn't know that. But see, and then here I'm seeing a lot of like normal map information issues and like softness in your geometry normals. So I think there's also some technical hurdles that you're needing to overcome as well. Like, are these pipes going through this pillar thing here? And then the pillars behind this. You want to watch out for really straight lines like this. I would actually just take this and bring it forward over the top of that. And that'll help break up those edges. See, when you get pretty close, it's not too bad. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's just, right now there's a lot of like, it looks like you figured out how to texture. You figured out how to mess with the material maps to get some like nice reflective surfaces. But there's a lot of like normal issues that are happening here. And yeah, it's kind of difficult to it's difficult to explain. Let me see if I can. So if you smooth this, you can see how like there's weird normal issues going on here, and that's like just the way that the lighting is interacting with the smoothing. I need to actually turn off the cavity stuff so you can see it much clearer. You can see how there's weird normal information, right? And a lot of that can be fixed with the way that you're utilizing your smoothing groups. So if I do like auto smoothing, so now these edges are harder, right? But visually now it looks a lot more geometric. So then having to solve that and figuring out, man, we could talk about this type of stuff for hours. But we need to actually go on to the next portfolio. Anyways, there's a ton of stuff that I think we should be looking at when it comes to like the way the normals are smoothing and whatnot. Definitely start showing your stuff without materials on it in the Discord and just start going to town. And you will get a lot of feedback on like how it's reading and how the surface reads. Yeah, I think that's the best advice I could give right now. It's more of the technical geometry 3D understanding that I think you're lacking a little bit on. It's interesting though, because like then I look at this one, I'm like, this looks good. This looks really good. It's when you're building your giant environments, I think, is that things are starting to break down. Yeah, so composition, lighting, understanding of your materials and how they are displayed on the surface of your geometry is going to be important. Okay, next portfolio. Thank you for showing your portfolio, and hopefully anything I said was remotely useful. All right, be right back.